All right, so we finished our layouts, we've added our icons. Now it's time to build our database. So under data collections and users, you'll see that there's a default collection for users. For this tutorial, we won't use that, but we're going to add a new collection, and we're going to call this links. So this will be a database table to hold all the links that we want to populate into our clone of Google search results. So let's create some fields, and we know what these fields are mostly from our layout. So we have a link, we have a title, a description, and then I'm actually going to add one more field for the purposes of this tutorial called keyword. And this will be basically what I used to search by. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but for the sake of time, I will just add a keyword field, and that'll be how we search our results. All right, so now we've got these tables set up, but how do we get data into these tables? So a couple things. When you talk about data collections, in Builder, you can click on this gear icon and you can see sort of your properties for the table. And you'll see that there's this data coming soon tab. In a future release of Builder, you'll be able to actually come into this view and have a visual representation of your table. You'll be able to see what records are in there. You'll be able to add new records in there, manually. But that is still, still coming. So until that's there, what I like to do is just create a very simple page layout that lets me manage my database. And I want to show you how to do that. So let's just create a blank page. And you can think of this like an admin panel or an admin view, or like a CMS. So I'm just going to call this page links add. And I want a very simple form that I can fill out to populate links into the database. So what I'm going to do, and I should say, I also want to be able to see what links are in the database. So I'm going to just create a quick and dirty layout. So just roll with me here. And I'm going to create a div for the page. And then I'm going to create two divs underneath. I want one for link add, and I want a second one for my links. And I'm just going to lay this out as a flex. And let's start with link add. So what I want to do here is I'm going to set this to flex actually as well, and a column. And let's add some padding just so that we're not right up against the edges here. All right, so I'm going to drop in a very simple header, and I'll just call this add a link. And let's build a form. So I'm just going to use some simple input elements. Oops. We're going to make this quick and easy. So I'm going to drop in 3 of these. And then I'll also add a multi-line input. All right, so let's go ahead and give these a placeholder so we know the name of them. So this will be URL. This will be a title. Keyword. And description. And then I just need a simple button that will allow me to submit or save this to the database, and I'll just call this save link. And let's just add a little bit of padding. Actually, let's add a margin just so I can see that button better. All right, so that's it. I'm just going to have a simple form that allows me to add these to the database. And I want to have on the right-hand side a view of all the links that are in there. So I'm going to add another grid list, just like the search results that we did. So I'm going to drop a grid list in here. I'm going to create a new page for my results. And let's move this over. Actually, I'll put it down here. And I'll call this link row. And again, this is just a utility page for me to add links. It's not going to be seen by the user or anything. So I'm just going to kind of make it quick and dirty here. This will be the link title. Nice header. Let's put the link URL in here. And then I'll want to see a description. And then last, the keyword, so I know how to search it. And actually, I want to add one more, which is going to be, I want to add an option to delete links so I can get these out of my database. All right, so these are just text items and links. I didn't add any functionality to them yet, but I'm just doing the layout first. So let's go back to our grid list and now select link row as our child. And now we can see I'll have a list of links that are in my database. So this is pretty much what I wanted to achieve. Let's connect it now. And to add this functionality, we're going to use actions and flows. So let's start with adding a link first. The trigger or the point that starts this action is going to be when I hit this save button. So on my save link, I'm going to come to this events tab, the last tab. And there's a lot of different events that I can add, but I'm just going to use the default click. That's what's going to trigger this for me. And I'm going to say I want to trigger a new flow. And I'm going to call this save link. So in this flow, I can add actions. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a record. So we're going to look for data, create record. And I get to pick which collection I want to add the record to. So this is going to be in my links collection. And then I want to just map each field to one of these inputs. So I'm going to start with the first field, the link. And where is it? It's on my current page. And it's an element. And it is URL. And we want to pull the value of that. So all this says is when I create this new record, populate the link field with the value of my URL field right here. So let's do the same for the rest of them. So my title field is going to come from my title input. My description field is going to come from my description input. And my keyword field is going to come from my keyword input. So that's going to create a new record in the database. But there's one more thing I want to do. After I create a new record, I want to clear out all these fields so that I can add a new one right after. It'll make it quick for me to add multiple records without me having to delete what's in those fields. So after delete record, we're going to add a new one, which is set value. And so element set value is what we want. I'm going to pick, let's just set one for each field. So our URL, we want to set the value to blank. We're just going to leave it like that. So I'm actually going to duplicate this a few times since we have 4 fields. And then I'll just go into these duplicated fields and just pick a different one. So URL, title, keyword, and description. And all that's going to do is after it creates the record in the database, it's going to clear all those out. All right, and then before we start testing this, let's set up our grid list to actually load those results from the database. So I'm going to select my grid list, and I'm going to come over to the Data tab, which is the last tab in this side panel. And this is where I'll tell it where to pull the values for the data. So I'm going to say that this will come from our links table. Actually, I'm sorry. I want to select from a data collection and say links, get all fields. So this tells it to pull all fields from the links collection and just pass that into each child page of my grid list. So my child page is down here, the link row. So now that I've connected the parent, the grid list, I can come to the child, which is my row page, and I can tell it to populate values for each of these. So we're going to start with the title. Under data, I'm going to leave it as record value from a field. And we're going to say this is links and our link field. Actually, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be the title field. There we go. So that'll be the title. The URL will be pulled from links, and it's going to be the link. Description comes from description, and you get the idea. Keyword. There we go. Now we've told it to populate links when we hit the Save Link button and show them in this list. Now I want to test this, and the way to do this is to add a route, a page route, so that I can actually load this in my web browser and test it out. So I'm going to come here to URL page routes. I'm going to add a new route, and this is going to be my preview domain slash whatever I input. So I'm going to say admin links. And if you're not logged in, it's going to go to links add, and the same if you are. I'm not using authentication, so I'll just set these both to the same and hit create route. And now I have a route created. So now when I want to test this out, I can go to preview. And if I hover my mouse over preview, I can see this admin links route that I just added. And when I click it, it's going to load my page. And here we are. So I see my form for inputting a link. I don't see any results loaded because my database is still empty at the moment. So let's go ahead and add some links. So I've got some default ones here. Let's just load builder. Give it a title. The keyword for this that I'm going to search by is just going to be builder. And then let's just grab a description. So I've got my fields populated. When I hit save link, this should add it to the database. I'm going to hit save, and it should clear the fields. And we see that it cleared all the fields. Now, you'll notice that it didn't populate over here on the right-hand side. It will if I refresh the page, so I'll show you that. So I refreshed, and here's my link that I just added. But there's a reason that it didn't pop up automatically. And that's because we need to add something called a data listener. Basically, we need to tell the page that when new data gets added, I want you to do something. In this case, I want to reload the page. So I'm going to show you how to add a data listener real quick. So we're going to go to the page that we want to listen for the data change, which is our Add Links page. Click on the body, and on the right-hand side, you'll see this purple element for data listeners. You're going to click New Data Listener, and you're going to tell it what action you want to execute when it finds new data. And in our case, we could create a new flow if we wanted to do something special, but really all I want to do is reload the page. So I'm going to select Page Load, and then I have to tell it which collection I want it to listen to for changes. So I want it to listen to my links collection. I could go further and limit this if I wanted. I could say only listen to add and remove changes, meaning if I edited a record, nothing would happen. I could tell it to only listen when certain fields change. So maybe if I only wanted it to refresh if the keyword changed or something like that. But I actually want it to listen to all events, meaning any changes to this links table, I want it to reload, and I'm going to hit Create Listener. So now we have a listener that is going to listen for changes. Let's go back to our links page and let's add a new one. So let's see what we've got here. Let's do Google Chrome. So we're going to say the URL is Google. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Google.com/Chrome. Let's do that. Give it a keyword. This one's going to be Chrome. And then give it a description. All right, so I've got a description. Now when I hit save, it's going to add it to the database. It's going to clear these fields, but it should also listen for that change, and it should repopulate this list on the right. All right, so now we can see that we're able to populate links into our database. And the last step, the last thing I want to do in this video is just add our delete functionality. So if we come back over into our page row, I'm going to do two things. One, I want to style this, and this is very minor, but I just want to add an underline just so that I know it's a link. I could have also used the link element type, but I'm just going for quick and dirty. Again, this is just a sort of a back-end utility that no one will see. So delete link. So now we want to add another flow that fires when we click on this link. So under events, again, I'm going to use click, and I want to create a new flow which says delete link. And the action here is to permanently delete a record. We could also archive it, but for this use case, I want to permanently delete it. So I'll select permanently delete and pick the data collection links. And that's all I have to do. Because I'm working within the row, it's going to know already which record I want to delete. It's going to be this record that I clicked on. So we can now go back to our admin page here and refresh. We'll see that we now have this. Actually, I want to do one last thing. This is really minor, but I like to do this and set that cursor to a pointer. So again, that's just so that when I mouse over, I know it's a link and something's going to happen if I click on it. So let's go ahead and delete Google Chrome. And you'll see that as soon as I hit delete, it now removed it from this child element. And that's because, again, this child element is set to load what's in the database. I removed the item from the database, and I have a data listener that's listening for any changes. So we now have that set up. So that's going to be it for this section. That's how we add links into our database. Now that we have a database of links, I'm going to add a few more just for test purposes. And then in the next section, we will actually connect our search results to the database to actually pull from that database when we do searches by keyword.